We're going to jump right into mastering podcast interviews. And so the first question, Andrew, what strategies do you use to find the most effective way for identifying potential guests who have some like fresh insights to share? Because I know finding guests if you're doing an interview show can be a little bit difficult.
That's a great question, Jeff. My gosh. I think that all of us have maybe, if you're thinking about starting a podcast at all of us have maybe that guest in mind that's like, my gosh, here's the moonshot. This is the
Mhm.
person that I would love to interview one day someday. For me, that person's John Maxwell. So, John, if you're listening, I'm really interested in interviewing you at some point. But I think two things have really helped me. One is a concept that I call bloom where you're planted. And so, yeah, have that person in mind, have that moonshot guest in mind. Who's the person that one day, someday I'd love to interview them, but then start with where you are and start to think about, okay, with the stuff that I'm interested in, with the subject matter that I'm passionate about, who wants to be interviewed and who is interested in sharing what they have to offer. And in my mind, you can go a couple of different places to find people that kind of fit that category. Some successful spots for me in the past have been Amazon's new release list. So
Oh.
somebody that has a book that's coming out, somebody that's thinking about releasing a book sometime in the future. Very often they're interested in traveling the PR circuit and they want to share what it is, their message with the world. So finding people that are hungry to talk about what it is that they have to share with the world, I think is an excellent strategy. New and noteworthy within Apple's podcast, just kind of lurking around in there a little bit. So often you're going to find people that have really interesting stuff to say, and they might not necessarily be like the guests, but starting with where you're at and then working toward where you want to be in terms of the guest selection, I think is a fabulous way. Number one, to get in the reps, because if you're starting a podcast from scratch, just that sense in which, you're not going to be amazing at it at first, and you're going to make mistakes, you're going to mess up. That's part of it. And why not get desensitized by having all the reps in from the get-go and just trusting the process that as you're interviewing guests that you're moving forward, each conversation is moving you one step closer to where you want to be in terms of subject matter. And the other is the sense of, I call it widening circles or platform jumping. So starting with where you are and having guests on that maybe take you a step in the direction of where you want to be. So I know when we first started, it was just a tech interview show. Back in 2009, we just interviewed guests who happened to have some leg in the WordPress community. And slowly over time, that circle widened to people who happen to be in tech. And over a few more years, that widened into people who happen to be in business. And so as you widen those circles, different guests have credibility indicators that they use to decide whether or not being on your show would be a good fit. When you can, give other names that people would recognize or be like, oh, I know who that person is, it suddenly becomes a switch in their head that says, yeah, that sounds like a show I'd like to be on because I recognize these other voices in that community. And that doesn't happen if you just start there from the get-go.
I assume that you have like your white whale, like that you get, because I know I have like tiers. Like I always wanted to get Jay Bear. I was able to get him on this year. Seth Godin for a lot of marketers is the one step. I guess you kind of have some stair steps that you go. Like when you first start out, it may not be realistic if you're just like on episode 1 to get those tier guests. If you can, that's great. I was able to get Guy Kawasaki really early in my journey just because of people I knew. I guess to kind of have realistic expectations of the guests that you can get when you're first starting out. Is that something you found too?
I think so. I also think being truly interested, not looking, yeah, there is a long-term play that's happening here about like where you want to be and you have in your mind, who that guest, that magic guest might be. But really truly being interested in the people that you're interviewing as well. So it's not a sense like people can smell manipulation. People can smell, when you're not being authentic with them. And so I'm truly here because I want to add value. When people sense that, I think it makes for a better interview.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like, how much research do you typically conduct on a guest before you do the interview? And do you have any like go-to sources or methods with that?
From a technical standpoint, like when we're talking about nuts and bolts and going on, like there's not a standard process in terms of like Google stalking or, Instagram lurking or anything like that. So that I don't really have a method for that. But if you're trying to really dig up research for a potential guest, I think I look for one sort of thing, and then once I have an answer to that one thing, it becomes sort of a linchpin for where the rest of the show can possibly go in the future. And so, for me, that one thing, if you have it, you know it's going to be an amazing show. And then if you don't have it, you can have all the facts, all the research, know what the person ate for breakfast when they were 10 years old, and creep them out with that information on the show. Like you
Right,
do all that stuff, but it might not be a great show.
Mm.
And the one thing for me is what I call the seed of enthusiasm. And so it's
Mhm.
like you look for the content that's already on there. Do they have any content that's already on YouTube? And you listen to that, the shtick, the TED Talk, the welcome video, and hear what it is that they're already passionate about. Is there something that they bring energy to that shows up in their conversations or in their bio, and find out what that one seed is? Because if you can revolve the questions around that seed, very often it's really, really difficult to get a miss. It's so easy to get the right interview questions across if you can find where it is that energy starts to flow, where that enthusiasm starts to show up. And so you can have a lot of prep or a little bit of prep, but when you keep in mind what it is that makes that guest kind of light up, it becomes that much easier, I think.